Welcome to the next project. We are kicking off a Harley Benton TE20 mini series remod project. I purchased this guitar new in 2015 or 16, I think it was, then took it apart and started cutting on it. Did a little work, string through setup, new bridge plate, new pickups, compensated saddles, original electronics at the moment. I did address the frets at that time, put in a new nut because the factory nut split in half. Ended up putting in better tuners. These are hip shot open back locking tuners. It's got a lot of upgrades already, and there's really no good reason to do what we're about to start, which sounds normal for me, right? And this guitar is going to get all refreshed, and then I'm going to sell it off. I've got too many projects under the bed and in the closet. Let's start the next project. Well, we have to start somewhere, and that's by taking this otherwise nicely working guitar apart. Strings off, the neck is coming off, and that was the first issue I had there. That neck was stuck. Chipped a little paint away. Don't like that. Break out the soldering iron, start pulling wires off it, pulling the bridge out. These are aftermarket pickups, they're really nice. We'll talk about that probably in the next episode, I'm guessing. A little wrench work, and this machine is about ready for repair. No, it's not repair. Fixing. Modifying. Yeah, we'll go with modifying. Something to ponder as I'm taking it apart. How tight does the neck to neck pocket fit need to be? Does it need to be so tight that when you remove the neck it chips paint off? I mean, that's a tight fit. This should have had amazing sustain, if that's the thinking. Or it could just be a big pain in the butt because now I've got paint damage, which doesn't matter because we're redoing the whole top anyway. But just for you to think about, how tight does it really need to be? If you're gluing it together, it's one thing. If you're screwing it on or bolting it on, maybe it's a nut. Or is it the same? You decide as we continue the next project. Body is stripped and ready for the next step, which is removing the old finish. And this has got a couple things going on. It's got the factory, probably a polyester sealer over the whole thing, which is quite often very thick. Then it has probably the factory urethane clear, color and clear. Most of that had been sanded away on this surface, the back not so much. This surface is where I did the work years ago. So I sanded a lot of that away, used a polyester primer on it, which has kind of left some witness lines anyway as everything shrank and expanded over the years. But I quite often see people saying, use a heat gun to take off the factory finishes. They say lacquers and they say urethanes and whatever. I always worry about using heat on wood because when you hit the glue lines, sometimes glue softens up and that's not a good thing. Should I try it? I might. Well, let's continue the next project. Maybe I won't. I'll decide in a minute. Threw caution to the wind and used the heat gun to remove the finish from this guitar body. It does still have the existing, what I'm going to call polyester sealer coating on it, which is really tough stuff. The heat really didn't do much to that at all. I did scratch through it in a few places, but barely. The heat really did loosen up the top coat, the color, and the clear that was on it, except for where I had sprayed automotive clear coat directly onto the wood for the arm cutaway and the belly cutaway. Apparently the clear was really latched onto the wood fibers there. It didn't want to come off, so that's okay. I can sand that away. You can see where I'd originally patched what was a big hole in here a few years ago, inserted a plug and rerouted it for a single neck position Telecaster style pickup. This is all good. This will clean up when I run it through the drum sander and we'll get it ready for veneer as we continue the next project. I had originally planned to just run the body through the drum sander to tear away the black paint and clear coat and everything. And I ended up using the heat gun, and that was mainly just to save the sandpaper that's on this drum. However, I did spend an hour of time using the heat gun and scraper to get the color off. Could I have sanded it quicker? Well, I don't know, maybe. Using the heat gun actually was a really good experiment for me. I'd never done that before, so I guess that was worthwhile. And we all know that I'm a huge fan of sanding. So yeah, probably using the heat gun was the right way to go because I'm still getting my fair share of sanding with this. Ooh, there's the caulk tube. Gotta love a little caulk tube with some sandpaper stuck on it. And I have my fingerprint safety blue tape on. Always remember, safety first. More sanding. Sheesh. A lot more sanding. So much sanding, but it turned out pretty good. Oh, look, we have a couple of tone vent knots in the back of the body. I have the body thickness down to where it's ready for new veneer finish. Okay, we've got the body all stripped and sanded down to, as far as it's going to go. Now it's time to measure out and cut the veneer for the top and the back. I have roughly a 10-foot piece of 9 to 10 inch wide book match veneer. It's two separate pieces that are each 10 feet long. Now I'm going to cut that up. If I cut it all just for this Telecaster / Stratocaster type body, I could potentially get 7 sets out of this piece of material. However, I'm also going to cut a front and back set for another big body Gretsch style guitar. So my dimensions need to be a little different for that. So I'll probably get about a yield of about 5 total sets out of this. So that's 2.5 to 3 guitars, depending on what's done. Could be more guitars. If you only do faces, you could get more. Anyway, if I'm doing front and back on this, so I'm babbling. We guys just need to cut some lumber. Let's get back to the next project. I'll add a link in the description where I buy this veneer. It's off of eBay. There's a seller that I've been using for a number of years, and pretty much everything he posts is as you see it. I've never been disappointed. He points out if there's blemishes or if there's cracks or knots or any weird thing, if you buy an off piece of veneer. But I've been very pleased with what I get. And this is, even though this has blemishes in it, I knew that, and I thought Telecaster would be a great place to have some beauty marks in the veneer, because I always see Telecasters being kind of rugged and earthy and Wild West or something. I don't know. I'm babbling. I think it's fitting with this guitar. A little bit of tight bond in the seam, and squeeze it tight, tape it, set it aside to dry, and we'll come back to it later. The tape is off the seam, and now we've got a contour traced onto the veneer. I'm doing some kind of loose trimming with a pair of scissors, being careful not to split the veneer. Trimming away the neck pocket area. I don't want to split when the vacuum bag pulls it down. So we're getting really close. Doing a little prep there, getting the bag out, putting a couple of the air clamps on one end, sliding a chunk of MDF inside. There's also a mesh screen that just helps the vacuum bag draw all the air out. I don't know, there's a better description. A little bit of paper towel over the sharp spots right at the neck, and that is just so the vacuum bag doesn't get a hole ripped in it by any sharp pointy spots on the body. give it ample dry time, which was around an hour. This was Tight Bond that I used, letting the air out of the bag and peeling away the placement tape. And I think it's going to look all right. All right. Well, if there's a better way to do this, I didn't do it. I just used the oscillating belt sander and knocked off the excess overhang veneer, and just so I could get it ready to work on the backside. Pretty simple. At this point, I had already done some testing trying to get the veneer to draw down under vacuum into that belly carve contour. And the problem I was having is it's a conical shape. It not only wants to pull and split the veneer down that grade because it's stretching the veneer in one area and it's compressing it in another as it's going into that contour shape. So I decided to make a little paper template and just cut away where the veneer would be overhanging that contour area. And that's just to keep the veneer from splitting and causing me all sorts of grief. As I was just about ready to put it in the bag, I realized I should plug that factory hanger hole. They probably use it for applying finishes. But I figured no need to leave it. I'll plug it and get the new veneer in place in the bag, drawing it down. And I did have a little trouble on the lower bout. It tried to pucker the bag a bit, so I did bleed the air out, move it just a little bit, draw it down again, and again left it for about an hour. This video has been a really good look back, I guess, at how I spend my time when things like glue or drying. I just aimlessly look around and I'm like, oh, the neck. What can I do to the neck? I should have said there's nothing I could do to the neck. It's fine, leave it alone. Well, I looked at it and the frets, although they had been refreshed, 5 or 6 years ago, whenever it was, and I don't really play this guitar very often, if we'll call what I do playing. Anyway, it had a little bit of wear, like the first 3 to 5 frets. Very minor. I probably could have just polished it out, called it a day. But I decided to give it a gentle re-level, re-crown, dress, and polish. And now the frets look really nice. Using some, what are these called? They're little nail salon buffing pads or something. I don't know what they're called. I got them off of Amazon. They work really well. This is just sanded with those little pads. It looks kind of rough and dull. Basically the same thing you would get using steel wool. And then we're going to be moving into polishing. And that's when they really come to life. Using Mother's Mag polish, which is just a fine grit metal polish, Dremel style rotary tool, and a little wool pad, I think it is. Peeling off the protective tape, and that is ready for action. Looking good. I think we're at a stopping point for this episode. We've got a lot of work done on the body, all the original and modification round 1 finishes stripped away, front, back, sides. Applied new, what is this? Figured maple, kind of a heavy flame maple with some natural blemishes built in, I guess. Just natural beauty, we'll call it. So that's all glued on now, put in the vacuum bag, got that done. I had originally hoped to get the veneer to conform to this belly carve, which is a conical kind of shape, but just good straight grain veneer would have a hard time doing this, and this figured maple wants to split in like a wavy line when I try to get it to go in there. So we're going to finish off the belly carve in a different way, kind of like everybody else does. So that was going good. And while glue was drying, I decided to go back and revisit the neck. Not that it needed anything, but I had noticed that there was a little bit of fret wear up in the cowboy cord area. I guess I play cowboy chords. Maybe it's the only thing I know how to do. So I redressed the frets. They look amazing now. Amazing. Actually, probably way better than they did 5 or 6 years ago whenever I did this the last time. Also sanding away some of the true oil finish that I had put on way back then too. Cleaning it up a little bit, gonna make it better than it was. Again, no reason to do any of this other than my eye starts twitching and I just have to do stuff. So thanks for joining me and riding along through this episode. I greatly appreciate it. Stay tuned because there's going to be more to this project coming soon. So you want to stay abreast of that. So anyway, take care of yourself, those around you. And until next time, bye.